I've been blogging on Instagram longer than I've had my YouTube channel. I'm fairly new to this. But I have already decided on a bunch of games that are leaving my collection for various different reasons. And so I'll start a couple of videos where I go through my backlog of games that I've already made a decision on and let you know why they're leaving. So we'll begin with a card game, which is called Berserk from Hobby World. Tactical card game, and this set is called The War of Realms. In this game, it's going to be a similar kind of vein to Summoner Wars, where you are deploying your cards, your units, your soldiers, whichever faction you're playing, and you can have monstrous fantasy factions, you can have your elves, you can have, I believe, humans, barbarians. So you'll be deploying your forces, your troops, to these different lanes, and you will be essentially playing out the battle. You'll be moving your cards about, you'll be using their attacks to eliminate your opponents, and you'll be playing the battle from start to finish. I don't believe you're adding more units to the board, because this is off of memory, but your forces that you start the game with are the ones that you are allocated for the entire battle. So you need to complete the mission objectives, in most cases defeat your opponent, with the cards that you go into the battle with. So I'll start it off with the most obvious thing, that this game has absolutely gorgeous art. The cover is really, really nice. It sold me on it. And the card art within the box as well is equally very nice, very nicely done. The stats of the different units is also pretty easy to understand, and most of the card play is fairly easy to play. There's a bit of heavy text, a lot of text on some cards, but generally it's easy to understand how you play, what you do, and what all of these stats and things are. So the gameplay itself is actually pretty good. It's just, for my group personally, it kind of fell flat. We didn't really get into the gameplay, we weren't sucked into it or pulled into this universe. We did give the game a fair try. We tried a couple of the decks, because there is a few that you get to sample within the box. You don't just have two simple factions, you have a bunch of factions to choose from. So we tried out a few before we came to a conclusion on the game. You get to roll some dice as well when you're doing your attacks, so there is some dice included in the game. It's not just the card play. Lovely look, lovely game in presentation, but gameplay just fell flat for us. Rio, for me, felt like a game that needed a bit more work. It's a good idea and concept, and I like the theme. You're essentially building your big engine, your big craft, a vehicle, or dragon boat, whatever it is, you're building this contraption. And you need to go around the island collecting the resources that you need, managing it to construct all the different parts of your vehicle in order to have yours constructed first. So it's a bit of a race as well to collect the stuff you need to meet the objective, which is constructing your contraption. I like that theme. I like the general look of the boards, the actual pieces which show your vehicle. The table looks a bit boring when it's just a few tiles in a circle, so it's not got massive table presence. It was nothing outstanding to me, personally. After years of playing a few Kickstarters and going deeper into the hobby and trying other games, Rio just, for me, doesn't stand up. It doesn't have that appeal, and it's not something that I desire to play again. And I think it's the same with my group. I think they'd rather play many other games in my collection than Table Rio. Now, that's not to say it's a terrible game. It's just one that doesn't work for us, and I think you'll find that throughout this video today, all four of these games that I'm going to talk to you about, I'm not saying any of them are absolutely terrible. I'm just saying that they didn't work for me and my group, and that's why they're leaving. Next up is Four Gods, and wow, this is a cover. I picked this up in the Bring and Buy at the UK Games Expo as well, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. And do you know what? When it's set up on the table, when your game is coming towards the conclusion, because not at the start, but at the end of the game, it's populated with all of your tiles, your board is laid out, you've got the outer board with the starry colours, the purple and the blue, and then the inner tiles have all of your different, essentially, terrain. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the gameplay, as I said earlier, it's not a bad game. We enjoyed playing it. But when there's the option of playing Four Gods or something like Carcassonne that has gone down much better with the group, Four Gods is never going to get to the table. And I have to be honest about these things because I'd like to clear some space in my games room so I can get more. And it just doesn't measure up. I like a lot about it. I like the pieces. I like the artwork. You don't really explore this world that it shows you. It's just literally a Carcassonne-esque game where you're laying out the terrain tiles, you're You're playing them and trying to match them up and make them fit, and then you're placing your priests on those different terrain types in which to get points. Now, I believe the main way you play this game is also real time, and I think that's a horrible way to play this game, because you might get a really awkward piece that you spend ages analysing, trying to figure out how you're going to fit it into this build, because everything has to match, Your waters need to meet the waters, you've got to make your pieces match, and if you're doing that, someone might have a more awkward piece than somebody else. Although I don't think it's going to destroy the gameplay being a real-time game, I think it's more accessible for you to play it as a turn-based one. Again, even using that house rule and playing it in that sense, it doesn't beat the competition. And so sadly, Four Gods has to leave. The fourth game that we have is Hope. And I'd seen this numerous times, and it had always intrigued me because I'm hugely into sci-fi as both a genre for movies and TV. So anything sci-fi automatically catches my eyes, and I've had some great sci-fi games. I've got Twilight Imperium, I've got Star Wars Rebellion, I've got some awesome games in my collection. It looked interesting, it looked different and a weird and unique setting. And one of the primary things in this game is there are 3 dimensions, 3 zones that you're moving around the board. And these are, obviously on the tiles you'll see 3 separate colours, the red, purple and the blue. And they affect your movement throughout the galaxy. And you'll be going off and essentially trying to colonise as many planets as possible before the end of the game. And you're against the clock. And then at some point, I believe the galaxy's going to start to shrink. It just sadly doesn't gel with my group yet again. It's not that it's a terrible game. It's an okay game. For my personal group, it's not one that they were enamoured with. And neither was I. When I got it out to learn the rules and set it up and learn it, I wasn't particularly excited to try it. It took me quite some time to get it to the table. When it did, it just didn't go down very, very well. And so Hope is going to be another one that's going to be moved to the sell pile. Over the last year, we've been working our way through the collection and we found quite a number of titles that I put to one side that we'll be leaving. So as I said, I'm going to do a couple more videos, tell you which ones I've already played and I've already made a decision on. Some of them, it's highly unlikely that you're going to find them because I think a lot of them are older titles. But if you're ever curious, then at least you have my thoughts on them. And I think people should cover the old as well as the new in terms of tabletop games, because some titles upstairs in my games room are older titles and they're still exceptional. That will be the end of today's video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like, and I'll see you all next time.